to another 75 million of unpaid UTRs. Now you keep compounding that over the 10 or 20 years, you're going to see how cheap this bond would be compared to the interest that you're going to be paying.
No, because
and you're not locked into
no,
that
because the
interest
interest, you would pay the oldest one first, Bernie, and you're calculating it as if you are not going to pay any past due interest at all and paying current. And that's how you're figuring out this $1.9 billion to borrow.
But
it's just crazy to
we
think
go
that it would
back
cost
again to
$1.9
when are we
billion.
gonna be able to pay the tax
I know, but if you pay the oldest one
we don't have a plan
first.
to pay the refund. This is the only plan available.
This is the plan that's on the table. I understand that.
And
the question you have, Senator Respicio.
yeah, Mr. Chairman, I'm very, very upset about that comment that, Bernie, you just made, that you can generate 1,000 spreadsheets. You've also generated 1,000 different bond borrowing proposals, right? So let's just go down to education.
Because you ask for different scenarios, and so that's why
I
we do
wanted the
that.
scenario that you would put your name and you would sign on the bottom line that you
It's
believe
what's
this to be.
transmitted. It's been amended, and so we're just trying to accommodate that.
So let's go down to education, Mr. Chairman. So on 2014, from 2013, 181.6 million. Really, the baseline expense for education is going to drop to 176.5 million?
Is that your plan?
Yeah. Have you ever seen, colleagues, Mr. Chairman, the Department of Education's budget decrease?
But that's what it would be here.
And then the following year, 2015, it's going to also decrease another $1 million, and it'll decrease another $2.2 million. And then you have a $1,000. Yeah, well, you have like a $30,000 increase from 2016 to 2017?
We had originally explained that the 3.5% increase in the expenditures was organic growth, and then matching that up to the 10-year that was provided in a presentation by OFB showing the $420 million in there. We took a look at that and seeing that the difference was less than 0.5%. Well, if you want to do that, then you can do that. But you can also take a look at what it is, and we can't really say, too, that we should knock out all of the military build-up revenues either, because there are some already on the books.
No, there's a reason why I asked to do this scenario and break it down this way, because I would accept a 3.5% growth, organic growth, fiscal year after fiscal year. But when Mr. Rios the other night said that this pro forma did not take into consideration the expenditure for the military buildup, and then the other day he said that it now did, the fact that you broke it down this way shows that it didn't. Your original numbers do not account for the military buildup expenditure.
If you were listening to my comparison
I was listening.
about the total expenditures and that versus the total expenditures and the difference, then maybe you would have understood why I'm saying that was included.
Believe me, I understand completely. And you're telling me then there's a 3% organic growth?
These are projections, Senator.
But let's
you're arguing what's going to happen in 3-4 years.
Mr. Rios, let's go with your theory for a second, that this represents a 3.5% organic growth. Is 176.5 million, and then the following year 175.5 million, is that a 3% organic growth in expenditure?
Yeah, but if you look down at the bottom line and you look at the revenues over the expenditures there, you can always put that back in.
Always put
just look at the bottom line there, and the bottom side.
Yeah, so your bottom line does not account for the military expenditure. That's my point.
Even the last budget, you guys increased revenues by 27, $28 million. I mean, when the time comes, you don't think you're going to find, if you think that education needs $3-4 million more, you're not going to be able to find that?
So you're suggesting that the people of Guam go out and go to the bank and borrow a car loan and just hope that get a deferred payment on that loan, and 6 months from now, hopefully you'll find money.
You're wrong, Senator. You're not purchasing new asset, or you're not purchasing something. You're paying a debt that you already have.
I completely understand that you're just shifting, you're restructuring the debt.
Yeah, you're restructuring, and
Yes.
now you're paying interest.
Yes.
You're paying interest compounded quarterly.
But I'm
4% quarterly on the unpaid tax
But I'm
refunds.
asking you to consider, what is the consequence of owing a taxpayer versus owing a bank through a bond covenant? What is the consequence? That if the government of Guam cannot afford this debt, and then we have to start liquidating, what is that consequence? I understand, believe me, I understand that we owe taxpayers. Maybe the consequence of not paying taxpayers is I don't get reelected. But people elected us to make the tough decisions, right? And they elected your governor to make that tough decision, and that's why he trusts you to be in the position you're in.
Right.
But is it responsible, Mr. Rios, to say, we owe this debt, let's just go out and borrow, and then when the time comes, we'll find the money?
If it makes sense right now, Senator, yes.
How about if it doesn't
If it
make
makes sense.
Sir, how about
And
if
that's why it's before you.
How about if it doesn't make sense?
I mean, you approved 180, 160. You basically voted for a $340 billion or $1 million bond.
I didn't.
Oh, you didn't vote in that last, okay.
I voted no, and I was very proud to cast that no vote.
Mhm. That was in the budget?
Again, not paying the tax refunds, not paying tax refunds, what are the consequences? People die, people get sick, people's life changes. This is not something we asked the people of Guam to borrow, we took it. And so to say that you'd rather pay the bank versus pay back the unpaid tax refunds,
No,
I don't
you
think that's
said
responsible
you'd
either.
rather pay the bank. There was a press release by Governor Cabo that said he'd rather pay the bank and owe the bank than to owe the people. But they're very...
That's correct.
But what are the consequences
The consequences are,
of defaulting on a bank versus trying to play catch-up with the tax
the
refund?
consequences are, okay, just from a financial standpoint, the consequences are you continue to escalate how much is owed for unpaid tax refunds. You are never going to catch up. You need an infusion of cash right now to get us even into thinking about we can set aside for provision for tax refunds. So if we continue to have the taxpayers from their tax refunds fund the operations of the government, well then that's a choice that you need to make. We cannot keep doing this. You can call in the DOA the director and have her explain how the cash is managed. We are taking from money that should have been placed into the tax provision for tax refunds. Otherwise, we'd have to cut out $100 million worth of expenditures.
But Ms. Artera, by your own admission, your own original performa just had $109 million set aside.
Performa is a plan, okay?
Okay,
And
so
this
this
can
is your
change,
plan.
I can
So
change this tomorrow.
you just said that
I
we
said that
don't
we
want
can
to...
fund the debt
But you
service
just said-
for the bond. That's what I said.
Yeah, no, but originally
All right.
you said that, I just finished with this final thought, Mr. Chairman. This is why we're questioning the performa. This is where rubber hits the road. You say that we don't ever want to find ourselves in a situation where we're playing catch-up. If we didn't correct your performa or point out that you're only setting aside $109 million year after fiscal year after fiscal year, you would have found yourself at least in a $96.5 million shortfall.
Senator, you're wrong. If you default on the bond, what's going to happen is they're going to take that pledge that you put, which is the $25 million out of the $212 million in business privilege tax. That's why they want that
So
aside.
when they take that pledge, John, I'm glad you made that point. When they take that pledge,
Mhm.
where would the money go to fund ordinary day-to-day government operations after they've taken that pledge? How many jobs would be lost and how many people would be out on the street only because we wanted to pay tax refunds by Christmas?
And
Thank you,
when
Mr.
we
Chairman.
can't pay the unpaid tax refunds,
Thank you.
then you keep taking from the people of Guam
Thank you,
to
but
fund operations.
I just have
So-
one question. The governor's revenue number took out 105 million, set aside 105 million in next year's revenues for tax refunds. Are you telling me you're not going to be able to do that next year based upon his revenue projections? Will you?
If you
Are you-
pay all
no.
of the tax refunds, then yes.
No.
We could.
No.
If you don't,
No,
then
no,
you're
Bernie, my question is,
to pay
no,
tax year
Bernie,
11
hold on.
refunds.
My question is, next year, no matter which year you're paying the refunds for, based upon the governor's submittal, next year, will you be able to take out and put aside 105 million that the governor sent down as part of his revenue and expenditures, that he will set aside 105 million for refunds? It doesn't matter which year they're paid for.
Okay,
Yes.
he can do that.
Okay,
But
that's all I want to
He
know.
will not pay prior year tax
Okay, I
refunds,
understand that.
and he
That
won't
wasn't
pay
my
the
question.
continuing,
That wasn't my question. My question
carryover
is...
FY11
Bernie,
payables.
Bernie, my question is very simply, will the governor take and put aside 105 million for tax refunds based upon his budget submittal?
If we want to run the government into the ground, yes, he can do that.
So you mean he's not going to meet his revenue projections? My question is based upon
he
his
will.
revenue projections.
It's not about revenue
No.
projections, it's how much we can expect.
I know, but he said he's never wrong on the revenue, so he's going to
The
hit
revenues
his
are not
target.
wrong, we will get the revenues,
All right.
but your expenditures are higher than the revenues because
That's
you're
what
carrying over prior years.
That's why he's the governor. He has to manage those. But my question is,
Well, it also has to do with projection of revenues.
is he over projection for next year?
No, you
Okay.
over-projected.
No, I'm asking you for next year, Bernie.
No,
Next year-
I'm not over-projecting.
All right, so next year, based upon the governor's submittal of revenues, he will have and set aside $105 million.
No, because you have expenditures that are not included in the budget you're adopting.
So why didn't he change the budget to reflect those expenditures?
Because those expenditures include the unpaid tax refunds. You're
No, it
using current
doesn't.
year-
I'm asking you just on the budget he submitted.
Okay, this
Will
year-
he set aside $105 million?
This year, there is no
Bernie,
budget for
next
unpaid
year-
tax refunds.
Bernie, the question is very simple. Based upon his budget, does he intend to, if he meets his revenue projections, set aside $105 million for refunds in the budget that he sent down?
Again, if we are only going to pay for fiscal year 12,
Okay, all right.
adopted
Sure.
expenditures, yes, but that's all
Okay,
reasonable.
all right.
because
No,
we are
that's all.
paying unpaid tax
That's
refunds.
all I want to know, even if it's just for 2012. Because if he collects the 2012, we can come in here and amend and say pay 2010 for that, and we're behind for 2011.
Then why-
Understood.
then how are you
I
gonna
understand that.
pay-
That's all I want to know is,
They're not included in
Bernie,
expenditures.
the question is on refunds and the set aside in the budget.
You're looking at it in a
No,
vacuum. You
it is.
cannot look at the
I am
budget.
asking the question, will he set aside the 105 that he promises in his budget based upon his revenue projections? I don't care whether they're for 2010 or 2015 refunds. Will he set aside the 105?
And I said, if you want to drive this government in the ground, then he'll be forced to do that.
Then the governor should be forced to submit a new budget if that's going to drive this government into the ground.
Then you can fund the unfunded budget,
The question is-
unbudgeted expenditures then, and that's about, add up your UTRs, add up the court orders.
Committee of the Whole will recess until 2 p.m.